Okay, so have you ever stopped to think, like, who might actually be reading your most private messages? You know, your texts, your photos, all this little back and forths, because holy hell, the European Union might be about to make that a very real and, frankly, alarming possibility. They're pushing this thing called chat control, officially. It's about fighting child sexual abuse, CSAM.
But critics, they're seeing something else entirely, a massive surveillance machine.
Yeah, what we're really looking at here is a pretty serious attempt by the EU to mandate scanning. We're talking nearly all digital communications, and yes, that includes the encrypted ones, which is, a huge red flag for a lot of people. So today we'll dig into what this chat control actually means for your privacy. We'll look at why some experts are calling it, frankly, political blackmail, and how it basically threatens the whole foundation of digital security as we know it. Plus, the pushback, because there is resistance from tech companies, from citizens. This isn't just like a technical footnote, it's fundamental. Welcome to the Deep Dive from Swetlana AI. This is episode 241. We're here to cut through the spin, give you the real story. You know how we do it. Quick, sharp, and yeah, maybe with a little bit of skepticism thrown in. Our goal is just to break down the complex stuff, make it clear for you. So before we dive into this absolute potential shit show, do us a solid, hit that like button, subscribe to Swetlana AI, join the chat. Your support, it really helps us keep doing these deep dives. Okay, let's unpack this chat control thing. The fancy name is Regulation to Prevent and Combat Child Sexual Abuse. Sounds noble, right? But critics call it chat control. And for good reason, it seems. It first popped up May 2022, got reintroduced by Denmark July 2025, and there's a big vote scheduled, October 14th, 2025. Mark your calendars, the core idea. Mandatory, indiscriminate scanning, emails, messengers, chats, even your encrypted stuff, looking for CSAM. And there's this political angle, too. Claims the EU Parliament is pushing for an agreement using political blackmail, tying it to extending older voluntary scanning rules. It's messy.
It really is. And it's not just pictures they're talking about scanning. It's text, videos, even speech. It's incredibly broad. The first version, back in 22, explicitly said indiscriminate scanning of private messages. No ambiguity there. Now, there have been attempts to, let's say, soften it. Belgium suggested targeting photos, videos, URLs, but with user permission. Poland tried making it voluntary, focusing on prevention. But this current Danish proposal, it's seen as the more radical version. It's the one aiming to break secure encryption by forcing client-side scanning onto your apps.
Client-side scanning sounds bad.
It is. We'll get more into that. And here's the kicker, the so-called paradox. The voluntary scanning already happening, chat control 1.0, like on Meta platforms, Gmail. Well, reports of CSAM have actually been rising under that system, not going down. So you have to ask, is this whole approach even working? And this all fits into a bigger picture, right? The EU Commission's Protect EU strategy. By 2030, they want law enforcement to be able to decrypt your private data. That's the end game for some.
Wow, okay, so forget prevention for a second. This sounds like a straight-up violation of privacy on a massive scale. And it's not just critics saying it. The EU Council's own legal service, they put out an opinion, said the proposal still violates fundamental human rights. Why? Because, quote, the core problems of access to communication for potentially all users remained unchanged. It happens always and automatically. No judge, no warrant, not even like a hint of suspicion needed, just constant scanning. That's pretty wild.
That's exactly where the deepest concerns lie. This client-side scanning mandate. Let's break that down a bit. It means security flaws, vulnerabilities are intentionally built into the apps on your phone, your device, before the message even gets encrypted and sent.
So it's like installing a bug before the security kicks in.
Precisely, which compromises everyone's security. Think about it. Financial data, medical records, super personal conversations, all potentially exposed. Not just to the government, but to hackers, criminals, maybe even hostile countries. And, there's legal history here. The European Court of Human Rights, they previously banned weakening encryption. The European Court of Justice said flat out that permanent and comprehensive automated analysis of private communications violates fundamental rights. Clear rulings.
Yeah, here we are. They're still pushing it.
Exactly. And it goes further than just scanning messages. There's also mandatory age verification baked in for pretty much all messaging and chat services. What does that mean practically? Well, it could effectively kill anonymous communication online.
Which might not sound like a big deal to some, but...
Right. But it's critical for people like whistleblowers, Human rights defenders in dangerous places, vulnerable groups who need that anonymity for safety. And the rules for kids, they're pretty intense, under 16. You might get blocked from installing apps like WhatsApp, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, even games like FIFA or Minecraft, based on some vague risk of grooming, under 13. Forget TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram altogether, potentially. Some are calling it digital house arrest for minors, a major restriction on their online world.
And then there's the part that just makes you shake your head. Hypocrisy, maybe. Government and military accounts. Oh, they're exempt from all the scanning. Completely.
Yeah.
So the people pushing this law don't want it applied to them. As one source put it, ministers themselves do not want to suffer the consequences that they would impose on us. That's some serious bullshit right there, isn't it? Raises massive questions about fairness, about who this law is really for. Okay, so beyond the ethical nightmare and the rights violations, is this thing even going to work? Because critics are saying it's not just wrong, it's also ineffective and prone to errors, big time.
That's a huge part of the argument against it. These automated algorithms, they're described as experimental. They use artificial intelligence, sure, but how they work, not public. And the error rate, nobody knows. It's not published.
But the companies selling it must say it's accurate, right?
Oh yeah, the industry claims are high, 88%, 90% plus accuracy sometimes, but, and this is a big but, those claims come from people with a vested interest, right? The ones selling the tech. And crucially, they refuse to submit their technology to independent testing. So we just have to take their word for it on something this impactful. It's a massive red flag. And what's really fascinating, or maybe terrifying, is the data we do have on false positives from similar systems. Get this, Swiss federal police report that 0% of the machine-generated reports they get are criminally irrelevant junk, basically.
80%. Wow.
On Ireland, only 20% of reports that came via NCMEC, that's the US Center, were actually confirmed as real CSAM. Even the EU Commissioner, Johansson, admitted 75% of NCME reports are not actionable by police. They just can't do anything with them.
So mountains of false alarms, what does that mean in practice?
It means innocent stuff gets flagged. Holiday photos of your kids at the beach. Consensual sexting between teenagers, which, yeah, it's complicated, but flagging it as CSAM, that leads to what people are calling the mass criminalization of teenagers. In Germany, apparently almost 40% of child pornography investigations are already targeting minors themselves. This could make it way worse.
Yes.
And think about the scale. WhatsApp alone handles, 100 billion messages a day? Let's say the AI is incredibly good, 99% accurate.
Okay, 99% sounds pretty good.
It sounds good, but on 100 billion messages, that's still 1 billion false positives every single day.
1 billion, that's staggering.
It would absolutely swamp investigators.
Yeah.
They'd be drowning in millions of automated reports, most totally irrelevant. It pulls resources away from finding actual victims and perpetrators, and the sources are clear. Serious abusers. They don't tend to use regular commercial services for the really bad stuff. They use self-run secret forums, encrypted archives, things these algorithms do not recognize. So the argument is, this whole approach might actually push offenders further underground, make them harder to catch while scanning everyone else. Yeah. A real own goal, potentially.
Okay, this is sounding pretty grim. A potential privacy disaster, legally questionable, likely ineffective, and maybe even counterproductive. But it's not law yet, right? People are fighting back.
Absolutely. Thankfully, yes. There's significant resistance. If we look at the EU Parliament, for instance, they've adopted a negotiating position almost unanimously against the blanket chat control idea.
Really? The Parliament itself?
Yes. They want to scrap the blanket scanning, ditch the client-side scanning, no surveillance bugs on phones. They want guarantees for anonymous communication, and they want blocking internet access to be optional for minors, not this mandatory app store blocking. So, strong opposition there. And then you've got the tech companies. Telegram. They flat out said they'll pull out of the EU market rather than build backdoors into their encryption.
Wow. And others.
Signal, Threema. They've said similar things. They'd rather see services in the EU than implement client-side scanning. For them, it's an existential threat to their promise of privacy. And among the EU countries themselves, there was a blocking minority, enough countries to stop it before. The Netherlands was one, citing cybersecurity worries from their own intelligence agencies.
Even spies don't like it.
Apparently not, though reports say some countries that opposed it before are now undecided. So that could shift. Italy, Spain, Hungary, France are apparently in favor now. And crucially, there's citizen action. Groups like Fight Chat Control are mobilizing people, urging everyone to contact their MEPs, their governments, tell them to reject this thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just about saying no. Experts in the field, the ones who actually, understand child protection and tech, they're proposing alternatives.
Like what?
Like actually strengthening law enforcement. More funding, more people, but for real investigations, not just checking endless false flags from an algorithm. setting up an EU Child Protection Center to proactively search the public internet, including the darknet, where abuse material is often found, making providers remove clearly illegal stuff once it's properly identified, and, tackling root causes, supporting victims, better media literacy for kids, things that actually help without wrecking everyone's privacy.
Right. So that's the deep dive on the EU's chat control proposal. A real piece of work, isn't it?
Look, if you care about your privacy, your digital security, or hell, just not wanting to be wrongly flagged for something horrific, this affects you directly. So please like this deep dive, subscribe to Swetlana AI if you haven't already, and definitely drop a comment below. What do you think? Your voice actually counts on this one.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, and it leaves you with a pretty sobering thought, doesn't it? If the institutions we trust to protect our fundamental rights start pushing policies that seem to gut those very rights, even if they say it's for safety, what does that mean for the future, for a free, open digital world? And once they start scanning for this, under this justification, what might they decide is necessary to scan for next? Definitely something to chew on.